have Mr. Henry Tunupopo, Assistant CEO for Trade Division in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade in Samoa. Please join me in welcoming and acknowledging Mr. Tunupopo. And then we have Dr. Ruth Katumuri, who is the Senior Director, Economic Development, Trade and Investment at the Commonwealth Secretariat. If Denver were here, he will say that is not a round of applause. Seriously. Thank you very much. Next is Mr. Olasupo Shasore, who is the Chair of the Nigeria Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council. And before him, last but by no means least, is Ms. Beth Button, who is the Director of External Affairs, Association of the Commonwealth Universities. Please welcome and join me in welcoming the panel. Now, as I said, the theme is about staying the course to the $2 trillion target of intra-Commonwealth trade. Let me start with you, Mr. Bhardwaj, or shall I call you Anil? SMEs are the heart of the Commonwealth trade. And if you recall, the Secretary General said 80% of businesses in the Commonwealth are SMEs. Now, they are the heart of the Commonwealth trade architecture, yet often they face steepest hurdles. From your experience, what targeted intervention, whether regulatory, financial, or institutional, are most needed to unlock SME-led trade across the Commonwealth?
Thanks, Paulina. First of all, greetings from Intra Commonwealth SME Association and Federation of Indian Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. We have already set a goal for ourselves for achieving $2 trillion target for intra-Commonwealth trade. And we are less than halfway at this moment. And in the next 5 years, we intend to cover almost half. It's not easy, it is certainly audacious, but at the same time, the goal has to be challenging enough to galvanize us into action. As a matter of fact, in the inaugural session in the morning, Commonwealth Secretary General said that it's time to work now, get down to work. So next couple of minutes, I'm not going to spend on that how important trade is, and a lot of good externalities are there for trade in terms of creation of employment, etc. I think the audience is well aware of that. I would rather focus that what are the areas, what are the two main areas where action points lie. One is producing the tradable, both goods and services. We need to produce in the member countries that what could be traded. And second is trading the tradables. Having produced, we need to know that what it takes to really trade. And as you rightly said, that in the three dimensions, whether regulatory, financial, or regulatory, financial, and institutional, I think a lot of work needs to be done. And there are barriers. As a matter of fact, structural gaps that exist that need to be addressed. Take the example of regulatory part. Now, harmonization is taking place. Global competition is happening. 75% of trade is being routed through global value chains. So harmonization of laws, modernization of laws is one important aspect or challenge that is before us in most of the member countries. Whether it is in the case of labor, whether it is environmental and pollution laws, or certain other regulations, insolvency and bankruptcy, and so on. Take finance, for example. Now, in most of the member countries, you find it still difficult to get credit without collateral securities or physical assets. And one of the reasons is that we do not have credit guarantees, enough credit guarantees. So structural gaps exist. So credit guarantees are very important. Credit information bureaus are important. Then we also have insurance, recent interesting insurance products like insurance sureties that can take care of needs like bank guarantees and performance guarantees. All these, trade finance again has come up as an important issue. Third is like institutional gap. Insolvency and bankruptcy I mentioned, but at the same time, we also need competition commission. So, I mean, in all the three dimensions we need. Apart from that, the fourth one is trading the tradables. Having produced those products which could be traded, as a matter of fact, we need to also have institutions that can facilitate this in reality. Like, even if you give free market access to many of the Commonwealth countries, their difficulty is they would not be in a position to meet the supply standards, product standards, service standards, environmental standards. So harmonization of standards is very important. Having the laboratories in their countries and then having the mutual recognition agreements between the countries, Commonwealth countries, then only it would become possible that once I have produced something in my country, I would be in a position to sell it to other countries also. So I think all these broad spectrum, we need to sort of identify. The role of Commonwealth Secretariat, I think, is cut out in this regard. That if we identify the institutional gaps that exist in all the three dimensions, and then fortunately the knowledge, the solution also exists within the Commonwealth family. So on one hand, we have challenges and problems within the family, but at the same time, we have solutions within the family. But we need to identify, and somebody, particularly Commonwealth Secretariat, may be required to play the role of a coordinator and facilitator for the solutions to find way to the problem and get them solved.
Thank you so much. Indeed, very critical issues you raised there regarding structural barriers and gaps, and also what needs to be done, and especially the role of institution. And I'm sure when we come to the Commonwealth Secretariat, we'll hear more about that. Now let's move on to Mr. Tunupopo. The small island states like Samoa are working hard to expand their trade reach despite structural challenges. And I believe the Prime Minister also highlighted that, particularly on the issue of the participation in the global trading system. What does Samoa need most to scale its participation in regional and global value chains? And how can South-South cooperation, especially, help small states move up the value chain? And the Commonwealth, of course, has quite a number of small states and island states as well. So please, over to you.
Thank you, Paulina. Talofa lava talofa, distinguished guests. Thank you for the opportunity for Samoa to share a little bit of our experience in this chat. I want to start by saying that many small island developing states, Samoa continues to face enduring structural challenges. These include our geographic isolation. No one can find us on the map. Limited economies of scale. The costs for trade and transportation are very high, as well as the vulnerability to external shocks such as climate change and global economic disruptions. These factors impact our full integration into regional and global value chains and call for innovative context-specific responses. To scale our participation in these value chains, Samoa has focused on sectors where we see quite strong potential. These include, to no surprises, trade and services, particularly in tourism and business support. There is a huge focus on labor mobility in our part of the world due to the income opportunities and skills development it provides for our people. Digital trade, which offers new frontiers for small economies, especially for those as isolated as us in the Pacific. and fisheries, a key pillar to our blue economy. In this context, South-South cooperation offers a valuable pathway to progress. It creates opportunities for developing countries to collaborate on common priorities and share practical solutions. Through such partnerships, we can attract investment in trade-related infrastructure, enhance skills development, facilitate access to appropriate technologies, and improve mobility frameworks through regional visa arrangements. South-South cooperation also encourages joint ventures, fosters regional production linkages, and expands market access for small states like ours. Equally important, this cooperation strengthens our collective voice in advocating for a fairer and more inclusive global trading system. By working together, small and developing states can share knowledge and best practices, pool resources, something that is very limited these days, and co-create strategies that enable us to move up in the value chain, transforming from being suppliers or exporters of raw materials to being providers of high-value goods and services. We are proud to be part of the Commonwealth, a family of 56 nations, of which 33 are small states like Samoa. Though we are small in population, not necessarily in physical sizes, but has just over 200,000 people, we are rich in culture, resilience, and ideas. Together, Commonwealth countries, which represent 2.7 billion people, with more than 60% of collective population under the age of 30. This presents a demographic dividend that, if harnessed well, can foster trade and sustainable economic growth. The Commonwealth's shared goals, including the 2018 commitment to reach US $2 trillion, are ambitious but achievable. Paulina, as you pointed out, our Prime Minister also questioned it this morning. For Samoa and our fellow small states, this means upscaling investment in digital connectivity, trade facilitation, institutional capacity, and regional integration. In Samoa, 90% of our private sector is driven by MSMEs. No surprise to anyone. So we also see the opportunity in leveraging Commonwealth partnerships to strengthen MSMEs development to participate better in regional and global value chains. As we gather here for the Commonwealth Business Forum, the real opportunity lies in making Commonwealth not just a community of shared values, but a platform where small states are both supported and equipped to fully benefit from trade in our respective regions and within the Commonwealth market. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Henry, for that. Clear solutions highlighted, because the Secretary General and the ministers this morning said we must be practical and get things done. And I think this is really where we are looking at, especially if, again, keeping in mind that we are looking at the pathway to the $2 trillion US target. Institutional strengthening, South-South cooperation, as you highlighted. But let's move on to Dr. Ruth Katumuri from the Commonwealth Secretariat. Now, the Commonwealth Secretariat spans economic development, investment promotion, sustainability across Commonwealth countries. From that vantage point, what enabling conditions, such as infrastructure, education, or governance, do you see as essential to help member states grow their trade potential and contribute meaningfully to the $2 trillion Commonwealth trade target? Of course, there were some issues. Anil here raised the point about the role that the Commonwealth can play in coordinating some of these issues. So over to you, please, to share with us your thoughts.
Thank you, Moderator Paulina. As co-organizers of this business summit, along with the government of Namibia, and I'm also going to call, maybe not for this session because it will be disruptive, But I would say that the front seats where the ministers and the officials were sitting this morning are not going to be occupied. So please feel comfortable and free to come forward from the following sessions. But welcome to all of you for participating in this very important business summit. And as we heard in the morning, this is the first time that the Commonwealth has organized a business summit, but this is at the invitation of Namibia. We have worked together with Namibia to organize this, and first time outside of the headquarters in London. And also welcome and thank you to the participants in this panel as well, and all the other panels. So let me focus on, let's say, what the Commonwealth Secretary General said this morning. She said 2 trillion is ambitious, but achievable. And so also the Prime Minister, Honorable Matafa, said 2 trillion is achievable, but I also want to highlight her point. How can we do this without harming our planet? And that's also a very important point for us to keep in mind. And the Secretary General also said, key to achieving this is partnerships. So since we are here with all you very sort of entrepreneurial and profit-making businesses, that is a very important and crucial partnership. It's only through partnership with our business communities can we achieve these goals. And I want to give you the example of Prince Charles. I'm deliberately calling him Prince Charles because he could do this when he was a prince. And even when this was during COVID, he was convening heads of government from across the Commonwealth regions, and he was trying to drive the initiatives to engage the private sector and to drive that engine of investment by the private sector in order for us to achieve sustainable development and economic growth. And hence, I want to come back to the role, the very important role that the business community can and should play. We also heard from Dr. Uwanja, the CEO of the Namibian Investment Promotion. And I want to highlight what she said, that Namibia, a small country with 3 million people, it's the 3rd largest pension fund in Africa. Now, the money is there. The money is there, but how do we make that money fit for purpose and to drive the engine of trade between our countries? Let's focus on intra-Commonwealth trade. We do need the SMEs to be engaged. We need partnerships. We need women and young people to be engaged. We have to think about digital. So let me highlight a few things, concrete things that the Commonwealth Secretariat is already doing. So we have to think about inclusive, sustainable, and resilient in a world which is, we face so many challenges, not only in the economic space, but in the geopolitical as well as environmental challenges. So this is why the topic of resilience is extremely important. So what are the things, for example, I'll tell you challenges if we are talking about challenges. Namibia is one of the more advanced countries or middle-income country in Africa. But in the last few days that we've been here, we've been without water for 2 days. We've been without Wi-Fi for more than 24 hours. And in today's world, but these are ground realities. And one colleague said, if we don't have electricity as the 3rd missing link, then we know we are working in Africa. But why am I pointing this out? It is important that in spite of it, our people in Africa, are full of drive and enthusiasm now. And how do we use that potential to drive the engine of growth, to enhance the development? Because there is potential, there are challenges, but we are also a people where the song of "We Shall Overcome" was sung many years ago in a different context. But the context that context may be different now, but we have challenges. But we as human beings are dynamic and have the potential to overcome the challenges. And in spite of the challenges, we should be thinking of bigger ambitions than 2 trillion. But it is achievable. Let me highlight just 3 things for interest of time. So what we need to do is create enabling environments between public and private sector for capacity building. But it's also not just making the technology available. We also have to ensure that the people have the capacity to adopt those technologies, because we have technological programs that we run with people, such as a Meridian debt management system that the Secretariat works with member countries to enable countries manage their debt. But sometimes countries are slower to adopt the technological solutions. So we need to develop those capacities as well. We need to create, firstly, to enabling infrastructure. This is not just physical, but digital and institutional infrastructure. And today, in today's world, now we are in a world, more so post-COVID, that we are one digital world. Even we've gone beyond villages, global villages. We have one digital world, and we cannot not fast track and deploy technology to the best possibility. So many member countries in the Commonwealth, particularly small states and least developed countries, are constrained by inadequate transport, logistics, and border systems. But equally, we are in an era where digital readiness is essential. Paperless trade, digital custom platforms, e-commerce capabilities can significantly reduce trade costs and increasing market access. Yet many members still lack the basic infrastructure or the regulatory readiness to implement these systems. Through the Commonwealth, we have the Commonwealth Connectivity Agenda. We are supporting reforms that promote smart and efficient systems that help bridge digital divides across the Commonwealth. We're also promoting knowledge sharing on financial technologies and payment systems. This is to make financial systems more efficient. So secondly, I was referring to education and skills development, capacity building, including for adoption of technologies. We have been doing several training programs as well, because we cannot trade what we produce, and we cannot produce competitively if our workforce is not equipped with relevant future-ready skills. We must think beyond traditional education and invest in skills, vocational and digital literacy, upskilling young people and women entrepreneurs, and fostering innovation systems, ecosystems. Commonwealth institutions such as the Commonwealth of Learning and Commonwealth Association of Commonwealth Universities and our education ministers' platforms play an important role in fostering cross-border learning, particularly in digital upskilling for MSMEs. We see real results when education is aligned with trade and industry policy. Thirdly, and most fundamentally, is governance and regulatory coherence. We need to have public-private partnerships and create those enabling mechanisms that are based on trust and result-oriented. We must, trade thrives on trust and predictability. That means clear, transparent rules, effective institutions, and aligned regulatory frameworks across regions. In this regard, we have seen how regulatory frameworks, whether in product standards, custom procedures, or investment rules, act as a silent barrier to trade. The Secretariat is working actively with governments to strengthen governance, including legal and institutional reforms, to support and keep pace with global momentum in areas such as digital trade. I would also like to emphasize one additional enabler, of course, partnerships. No one country can tackle these issues alone. The Commonwealth collaboration is vital. It's not only South-South cooperation, peer-to-peer learning, and joint initiatives, but also triangular. So it's South-South and South-North cooperation. The private sector must be bold. It must not be risk-averse, but it must be bullish. It must take risks, and it must be willing to invest in order to attain the potential and the profits that are possible through taking risk and investing, particularly across our Commonwealth and intra-Commonwealth efforts. We must not view the 2 trillion target as just a number. It is a marker. I would say we should think even more ambitiously, but we can do it. We can because we want to build a Commonwealth that is connected, inclusive, and resilient, and the enabling conditions such as infrastructure, education, and governance and partnerships are not just technical issues, they're moral imperatives if we are serious about delivering the shared prosperity for our 56 countries. But I also think we are ready and we have the potential to achieve that. And I will stop here now.
Thank you so much for highlighting what the Secretariat. Please let's give a round of applause. For highlighting what the Secretariat is doing and can do, particularly in those new areas. The Minister of Singapore said we must, was it a fresh play that we should adopt now and not just the normal usual play, you know? So we need to adjust and to think differently, and I think you're highlighting some of those areas, but more specifically also the issue of knowledge sharing, and this transitioned very well into my next panelist, who is Beth, the Association of Commonwealth Universities. The universities are critical to developing talent, research, and innovation ecosystems needed to support trade-led growth. Now, how can Commonwealth universities play a stronger role in advancing the 2 trillion trade agenda, particularly through partnership, skills development, and knowledge exchange between the region? Beth, over to you.
Thank you, Paulina. Can you hear me? Yeah. Firstly, you may be wondering why universities are on a panel about trade, and I think Ruth has really segued quite nicely to introduce the topic of higher education in particular, but tertiary, vocational, and education more broadly. If we look at the statistic that 60% of the Commonwealth are under 30, not only will a huge number of our future trade community be coming through education at every level of the pipeline and building those essential networks, cultural and economic relations through those experiences, but also universities sit quite uniquely at what we call a nexus between government, business, and academia. And it is through that relationship that I think we can really harness the role that higher education can play in supporting those 2 trillion. And we, as the Association of Commonwealth Universities, have a network of more than 400 universities across the Commonwealth. And at our heart of what we do is really foster collaboration amongst not only our member universities, but also those governments, member states, stakeholders such as industry, business, and other partners to support the Commonwealth ambitions. So I'll speak briefly about 2 areas that I think we can really take action to better support this. Firstly, skills. As we've heard, education is going to be really important for ensuring that a highly skilled workforce enables member states to move up the value chain and to respond to the new technology and developments and changing requirements of our industries. And I think we can do this in a number of ways. Firstly, mutually recognizing qualifications and having shared standards. The Commonwealth shared education systems and language enables a really strong foundation, but we're advocating that we go further